Narayana Samarambham Vyasa Shankara Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om peace, peace, peace. When I was invited to present in this August gathering, and I saw the title of the conference was Finding Unity in a Fractured World, the first thought that came to me was, well, I would like to talk about the Dharma teachings from the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita is renowned for bringing us to the work of the soul. There are 4 goals in the human life according to the Vedic, the perennial wisdom that I forward, and they are known as Artha Kama Dharma Moksha or Dharma Artha Kama Moksha. Artha means survival, and we are all asked to take care of our physical, financial, and emotional survival. That's what we're all about, aren't we? The next goal that we are asked to give importance to, not neglect and not pretend that we are too holy for it, is kama, pleasure. We are asked to bring music, art, dance, sex, sensuality into our life because we are at some level sensorial beings, and that is why in the Vedic tradition, sexuality, sensuality is part of our ongoing human evolution, and that is why we have compendiums, Natya Shastra, Artha Shastra, on finance, on drama, on music, Nitya Shastra, and sexuality, Kama Shastra. We have all of this available for us. But there are 2 more goals that are specifically recommended to us to become complete human beings, to not just be human beings with fleshy bodies, bones, and a skeleton, and a lifetime of grabbing morsels of artha and kama. We must wake up every day to recognize our dharma imperative. And dharma here, in short, would be a conscious way of living. A way of living the way I would like to live deep inside, with kindness, with respect, with integrity, honesty, nonviolence around me, where that's what I must give to another. So that is the Dharma imperative. And that is what changes us from being simply an animal to being a human, truly humane. And the final imperative is moksha, which is liberation, spiritual ascendance, union, and the yogic paths then come in as journeys. Dharma is important because our world has become consumed with artha, survival, and pleasure, kama. We've even divided up the world and created artificial silos because each one of us wants more. And when there is too much greed, too much need, and an unquenchable thirst, then we need to go and sit down with ancient voices, ancient scriptures, ancient teachings, and simply allow ourselves to be deconditioned. Today, my teaching is from the Bhagavad Gita, and in discussion with some people here, I thought it would be a good idea to just mention what is the Vedic tradition. The Vedic tradition, from the root, Sanskrit root vid, V-I-D, means to know, to come into awareness, to come into the light and no longer be metaphorically blinded. And the Vedic tradition precedes all religions. But I would say that all religions, Buddhism, Hinduism, Sikhism, Jainism, and all other important religions, there are more, that have emanated from this sacred ground, have taken the light from this and then transformed it into their unique mandalas. But I would say that the Vedic tradition is more of a conscious way of being, an awakened life. And these teachings were oral for a long time. Now, much later, of course, they were put into books, translated into every major language, and now you can buy them on Amazon.com. Timeless, sacred wisdom. I wouldn't say it was based on sacred text, because text came later. It was based on sacred transmission. And the Vedas were not authored by humans. They are aparushiye. They are not by humans. They have been channeled. They have been received. So those of you who have found great truths in the Mahatma letters, for example, would understand that these teachings, their origin come from a divine origin. And the best part that I really like is that these are perhaps the only scriptures that have been created not just by male seers, but by female seers too. There are 27 female seers who have contributed to the Vedas, because the Vedic tradition was progressive, it was beyond its time, and its highest depth can be found in the end portion of the Vedas called the Upanishads. So I would like to say that this is what I teach, and Vedo Khilo Dharma Moolam means if you have to understand Dharma, you have to go to the Veda. That is what it is about. The end portion of Vedas is called Upanishads. Many of you do not know, but Bhagavad Gita is an Upanishad. So we are really only talking about the Veda, though it has different terms. Like, oh, people say, oh, you teach the Upanishads. Do you also teach the Vedas? Well, Upanishads is the Veda. Oh, but do you also teach the Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita is an Upanishad, which is the Veda. So just to give you an idea of what I'm doing here, moving forward, I would like to talk about Dharma itself. Dharanat dharmaha. So the root of the word dharma comes from dhri. The root Sanskrit is dhri. And dhri means to sustain something, to abide. And so the dharma of an ice cube is cold temperature. Without cold temperature, the ice cube cannot be the ice cube. Would you agree? So the dharma of the sun is to burn, to radiate heat and light, without which it cannot be the sun. We can't really have a sun that says, you know, every summer I like to chill out in Alaska and kind of, you know, go cold there. No, that's not going to happen. The sun needs to be the sun. In the same way, we humans, we have a dharma to become truly human. And that is more spiritual than religious. It is universal, not personal. Everybody okay with that? To be into this universal code of beingness that makes us not only good human beings, but I would say successful human beings. There is a book recommending how to be rich, ancient times, known as Artha Shastra by a sage called Kautilya. And it has, it starts like this, that everybody wants to be happy, right? I want to be rich so I can be happy. So what do people want, money or happiness? Oh, they want money. So they looked at what is the root of happiness? How can we get people to happiness? And the sage said, sure. What a spiritual recognition, but it says this, Arthasya sukhasya moolam arthaha. Oh dear, to be happy you need money, artha, abundance, prosperity. And if you stop here, you think what a material philosophy this is. But then the sage goes on to say, dharmasya arthasya moolam dharmaha. But the root of abundance and prosperity is dharma. Why? Because if you grab money, if you cheat people to make money, if you just go through this world like it's a buffet and you can grab what you can in your pretty basket, sooner or later you get hypertension. anxiety, suffering, fear, and the people around you somehow karmically change and all they want to befriend you for is your money. But if you've earned it dharmically, if you earned it by being in alignment with universal consciousness, then that money gives you joy. And part of that is you'll be sharing it also. You'll be donating it right here too, to good causes. So do you see how dharma is interwoven even in our quest for money? Similarly, sexuality. If sexuality or karma is dharmically aligned, it leads us to love. It leads us to respect. But if pleasure, if our eating, if our sensuality is detached from dharma, then we are the biggest cause of our own sorrow. The foods we eat, the things we buy, the people we hang out with, they are all simply morbid engagements in our life. So dharma is indispensable, and it is not a rule or a law that a couple of wise sages in India with long beards decided, we're going to make this the dharma. Oh no. In fact, I don't have a slide on it, but dharma is created from the Vedas, revealed knowledge from God, from looking at the noble behavior over thousands of years of the noble ones, okay? And finally, and very importantly, Atmanaha Priyam, what your awakened self whispers to you is dharma. Sometimes we act in a non-dharmic way, right? We yell, we scream, we misbehave, we may lie, we may cheat, but there is an inner voice which says that's not dharma. The dharma is different. And so it also has to align with your inner voice. So that's the good thing, that dharma is not a dogma. It is not a dogma. It has been known. And in fact, it has many roles. It teaches us to live in harmony with natural seasons and cycles, and I'll give you an example of that. It asks us to recognize all beings as sharing the same inner self. We are wearing different bodysuits and different minds, but we are all deeply one inside. And recognition of that oneness, honoring that oneness, living as if that oneness is a reality is the way of dharma. It should show up in our speech. There is many thousand-year-old communication protocol in the Bhagavad Gita, which says that our speech should be truthful, satyam. Our speech should be non-violent, ahimsa. Our speech should be for the benefit of the one who is listening to us, not just for our ego trying to show all its colors. So it should be hitam. And finally, the speech should be priyam, soft, kind. I remember I used to call my son, Dhruv, come here and do your homework. Dhruv, finish your OJ. Dhruv, you know how moms take on that voice? Any moms? The voice. So my father, my guru, living guru, because my other guru had passed on, my father reminded me of the Bhagavad Gita imperative and said, to the ones we love most, we should say, Dhruv, Dhruv, come and have your juice. So I remembered that is dharma. And luckily, I changed the way I spoke to him, and I think it transformed my speech forever. Because that was my one blind spot, to speak to my son as if booking no argument. But that's not the way dharma works. So there is dharma in speech, dharma in how we act, and dharma in how we engage our senses. So our own senses. So it's a full embodied teaching. And I have picked but a few gems for you from the Bhagavad Gita, but the Gita is not the only source, I would say. I don't think there is any book and any field of teaching. We have Vaisheshika, Nyaya, yoga, Advaita. We have so many philosophies. And then we have famous books that you may know, Yamas and Niyamas from the Yoga Sutras, the Veda Shastras, of course. It's the heartbeat of the Indian tradition, I would say. So let's talk about the Bhagavad Gita, because this is what we are focusing on. There are teachings on Dharma in various contexts. For example, there is a Manu Samhita, and just before I go to the Bhagavad Gita, which literally tells us that, let me read that chant here. Yeah, Dhriti Kshama Damo Asteha Shaucham Indriya Nigraha Dhir Vidya Satyam Akrodham Dasham Dharma Lakshanam. So, for example, it's saying that, and I can't go into details of it, but it is giving examples of abiding by truth and then speaking the truth. So when you abide by truth, it's not your local parochial truth. It's the higher truth that we've all been talking about here. And when you speak the truth, then you're bypassing your small self to connect with your higher truth, to speak it. Akrodham. Anger has a value. We have a whole goddess that tells us that you can be angry and you can be feeling good about it, like Kali and Durga. And I've written a book about when anger is okay and when anger is a kind of a sadhana that you need. But at the same time, to look at that anger more as an informer of what injustice, of what you need to look at, rather than as a permission to act out and to have a tantrum on earth is not necessary. So if we contain all these, if we look at each of these ideas, we get like a way of life. And I'm now focusing on Bhagavad Gita. I took a detour into another text just to tell you that it's not like you have to read only the Bhagavad Gita. When next time you approach any Vedic scripture from India or a teacher, you will know that somewhere Dharma is an imperative and it must come true for us. So let us look at, this is the first verse, and by the way, the Sanskrit here is for my sake. Because when I see the Sanskrit verse, it toggles memories for me. And then I could have put it in that other way where you can also read it. Is it called the transliterated way? Yeah. But then I'm really selfish because I read it better this way. And one of the dharma of the teacher is to support herself in giving you accurate knowledge. So this is the first verse. So the Bhagavad Gita are 700 verses to be found inside a much larger Indian epic called the Mahabharata. And just to give you a brief idea, the Mahabharata is happening. It's a battle between, within the same family, factions of one family for the throne. Of course, one side represents Dharma and the other side represents adharma or lack of Dharma. And this is the first verse spoken by one of the characters of Mahabharata, who is asking, how are the two sides doing? But the first word I want you to point out is Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamakaha pandavaschaiva kim kurvat sanjaya, on the field of Dharma. So it does not say on the field of battle. Because all the battles in our life, whether they are professional battles, whether they are battles in the bedroom, battles in the boardroom, battles in the control room, these are all ultimately battles of Dharma. Will the lower self get its way, or will the higher truth, which is universal, prevail? Which one will prevail? So even in this first verse, we see the word Dharma, and that's what I wanted to bring your attention to it. So then in the next verse, we have a very interesting situation here, that the hero, the protagonist, whose name is Arjuna, who's on the good side, who's in our American language, our kind of guy, right? He's the person who might be a theosophist. He might be somebody who is open. He's somebody who is willing to learn, who has already instinctively chosen the person who's going to drive his chariot, a person called Krishna. And at that time, there were some rumors that Krishna has spiritual powers or insights or great counseling skills. But till that time, Krishna was not known to be a manifestation of the great reality. And if the great reality, the ultimate reality that Ravi pointed out to us, known as Brahman, the ultimate reality, if it can create universes, multiple universes, trillions of things, it can also take on a special body from some time to time. And that is known as avatar. And we were not, at least in this part of this story, it was Arjuna was then later revealed. Until then, Arjuna thought Krishna is a buddy. Then in chapter 2, verse 7, he realizes, oh, Krishna is my guru. And it was much later that Krishna revealed that he's not just a special human called a guru who is here to enlighten you, but he is the light himself. He is not a man or a woman or a king. He is the ultimate boundless reality who will teach us Dharma. And just because these teachings are from a God figure, I must clarify, I must build on what Raviji already mentioned, that another word for God in the Veda is Ishvara. And Ishvara is not a person, but a principle. And Ishvara, Ishate iti Ishvaraha, the one who controls from within is Ishvara. So Ishvara dwells in every blade of grass, you better know that. That's how the blade of grass is the blade of grass. Ishvara is the intelligence, the cosmic power that dwells in every particle, every pebble. And of course it dwells in your animals and birds, and of course it dwells within you as your own divine self. And so Ishvara takes on sometimes special forms. Ishvara is one who guided us into understanding the Vedas, the Upanishads, and now the Bhagavad Gita. So our Arjuna became, because he was good-hearted, because he's one of us, when we have to take really strong action against people we've cared for, or even if we've not cared for them and they've bothered us a lot, that humane part of us rises up and we are ready to sacrifice. At least I'm one of them. Are you? We are the first one to say, let's choose peace. Are you? Right? But that was the quick peace that Arjuna was choosing, not the dharmic peace. And so he says, look, you must follow your duty. You are a soldier. You must protect what is right. Considering your dharma, you should not waver. For a warrior, nothing is higher than a righteous battle. And sometimes we think this is only about the warrior who's going out in the world on a horse with a sword, and this is ancient. But we have our own battles. We have our battles in daily life. Yes? We have, and in those battles, sometimes our ego succumbs. Sometimes we become codependent. Sometimes we become rescuers. Sometimes we falsify our own knowingness. Sometimes we stay too long in toxic relationships. Sometimes we don't say no when we must say no. Sometimes we say yes when we must be saying no. And sometimes when we say yes, we don't mean our yes, and we are afraid to live our yes. Am I right? And that is why we have to choose Dharma. And it's interesting that Dharma was not taught in a temple. Dharma was not taught in a retreat. Dharma was not taught inside a darkened room where Om was playing in the background. Because this is Dharma of the day-to-day life, the grit and grim of life. When you want to either escape, leave, you have to face it. And I will tell you that I am basically, my DNA, I'm a conflict avoider. And I did some psychological analysis on my family, as we all tend to do, analyze our family. I realized that I got that strength from my father, not my guru, my grandfather, but my father. He tends to want to make it harmonious too soon. So I have to teach him more Bhagavad Gita. He calls me Guruji, so that's good. We're starting there, but he has accepted that I'm his guru. However, we pick up these patterns. But studying the Dharma imperative and knowing it, the opposite of peace is not aggression. The opposite of aggression is not peace. The opposite of aggression is Dharma. The opposite of violence is Dharma. Because Dharma includes the right way to bring into alignment. And bear with me, and I will continue talking to you more about this. So moving forward, let's just look at this one verse from chapter 13. And this verse was spoken by Krishna to Arjuna in readiness for what he has to do. And I'll just chant it while you read it. Bhagavan uvacha amanitvam madambitvam ahimsa kshanti arjavam acharyopasanam shaucham stairyam atma vinigraha. Step out of the ego, O Arjuna, to see clearly. Drop the mask, act from your real self. Touch the quiet strength that never harms. Accommodate what is hard to accept. Move like an arrow, simple, direct, and aligned. Stay teachable, because unless and until you are teachable, we cannot guide you. And then the last words are, which you cannot see, let intention, shaucham, let your intention be clean and transparent. Stairyam, remain anchored despite storms arising. And finally, atma vinigraha, discipline the small self to serve the greater self. So this is a teaching unto itself. This is one verse. And this one verse prepares us how to approach the difficulties in life. So, and then here is another verse. Swadharme nidhanam shreya paradharmo bhayavaha. Better to die in one's own dharma than to follow another's. No copycatting allowed. No. You have to be true to your inner voice. And I want to go back and tell you that there are many versions of dharma that we have to be really clear about. There is Rita Dharma, or the dharma of the cosmic order that you want to connect with. There is Varna Dharma, which clarifies fulfilling one's duty in the collective flow of things. For example, my Varna Dharma is asking me to teach this spiritual knowledge. It is not asking me to become an entrepreneur for it. It is not asking me to become an entertainer for it. Are you understanding? It's my role. It's my role, what I must do. Then there is Vishishta Dharma, which are special dharmas that many people may wear many hats. For example, when I'm home and my dog comes running to me, then I am a pet owner, and that's my dharma. And at that time, I can't say, look, I'm a spiritual teacher here, and I don't think you should bring your bowl to me. At that time, I have to be his mother. Yeah. So we have, when I'm a daughter, when I take care of my father, and last time I visited him, he's in his 90s. He was coughing, and for a minute we didn't have anything, so I put my hands up to collect his cough. And at that time, I was very much in my special dharma as a daughter. And so we have to move through these dharmas. But then there is Swadharma, and Swa means a self. There is this deep inner dharma that talks to us, that doesn't know I'm an Indian, I'm a woman, I'm a this, I'm a that. It is my soul voice. And that deep voice sometimes talks to me, and when I hear it, I can say no or yes based on the deep inner voice. Yeah? All of you have that? I know in this room everybody has it. But a lot of people out there don't hear that voice. But that deep inner voice, the Swadharma, then tells us what is our basic ultimate purpose in life. And even that is 4 kinds and all that. And I'm not going to go into those teachings right now. And the final dharma is moksha dharma, the dharma of spiritual liberation, spiritual harmony, spiritual oneness. And we are all not born just to make a living through artha or have some fun through kama. We are also here to realize our true self. And that is why we have to not be simply in herd mentality. We have to be willing to choose the dharma that is coming to us in that moment. So moving on, let us look at some more beautiful verses from the Bhagavad Gita that talk about specifically the unity consciousness, which is now we understand it's our dharma to cultivate it. It is not something that we can. And so look at this beautiful verse, and it says, Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavihastini shuni chaiva shapake cha panditaha samadarshinaha. The wise see with equal vision a humble Brahmin, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a so-called outcast. The outcast is just an English translation for the actual word is dog eater, somebody who eats the dog. And so we have this wide diversity of animals, beings, classes right here in this verse, do you see? And we are being told that it is not through our ordinary eyes, but the eyes of Dharma that we can see with equal vision. We can see these as an equal vision. So these are some of the unity teachings. And if these are in the back of your mind, then even inadvertently, this a divisiveness, a morbid divisiveness would not arise within us. Now I want to introduce another word called yajna. So it's an interesting thing. Karma also, another word is actions. Karma also means actions, not just the law of karma, but karma simply means an action. So when we act, usually we wake up and we take care of ourselves and our family. So we take care of me and we take care of mine, don't we? Isn't that what we all do? And that mine may be 3 people, 5 people, a community, a religious body, but that's it. Me, mine, me, mine, me, mine. But when we offer our actions to the greater good, the universal good, the nameless, faceless may benefit. The animals and birds may benefit. And why only the living beings in this sphere of existence called a loka? Why not in every loka? Everybody benefits, because surely there are others all over this known and unknown universe. When we make an internal offering, then it becomes a yajna. So when you're eating food, right? So in the Vedic tradition, before we eat the food, we say, may this food become an offering to the all. So it's going through this mouth, but may my health, my strength, my capacities that strengthen from this morsel of food become a gift to all others. Yeah? So when we offer our actions to all, it becomes a yajna, and it is yajna which is at the root of dharma. And dharma then sustains unity. So bear with me. I think what I'm pointing out to is a very great invitation by the Bhagavad Gita. This is also known as Karma Yoga in the Bhagavad Gita. This teaching says, every ordinary person, you get up, you live for yourself. Your senses, your intellect, your imagination, your limbs, your resources, you live for yourself. What if you imagined yourself as an instrument? We've been talking about that word instrument, as an instrument of greatness. We talked about the sacrifices needed, a voluntary sacrifice to step up. That is what Krishna is saying here. Krishna is saying that sacrifice doesn't look elaborate, but in day-to-day things make it yajna. So when I was a mother of a precocious 4-year-old, 5-year-old, and I remembered this word yajna, so then in the caretaking of that young one, I would think I'm not caretaking my son. I would think I'm caretaking this soul's journey on earth, whose caretaking is happening through my instrument. That is the approach then I brought towards the animals who came to my house, towards my students. And so what it does for me is, I'm talking about one individual here, me. It helps one become more dharmic in the general sense. So when we look at this, in our divided world, we really want to create silos of my truth, my teacher, my spirituality, my vision of it. But what the Bhagavad Gita is inviting us through Dharma is to continuously, in our day-to-day, think of the whole and think of yourself so much of an instrument that if you bring the thought of the whole in even self-care, then you are becoming more primed as an instrument of Dharma. You cannot simply have a me and mine consciousness all day and then you sign up for a not-for-profit and do something a little on the side. Are you understanding? That's great if we do that. But it is when our great leaders, our great teachers have constantly thought for the well-being of all. At least in this August gathering, even this root cause or this desire to be open, to be inclusive, to learn from all the great traditions. What is this? This is a wholeness paradigm. And what that does is it really prepares us and takes us forward. So we don't, I wrote here, we don't invent Dharma. Oh yeah, like Acharya Shunya's 10 rules of Dharma. No, we imagine Dharma as something we all step into. We conscious human beings step into. And when we step into it, we become truly the instruments of Dharma. But our preparation for it is offering our everyday actions for the greater good. So I have students who say, Shunyaji, I'm eating a cone of ice cream. You really want me to convert that into yajna? And I'm like, even if you think of the word yajna while you're eating that cone of ice cream, then for that moment, your unit of consciousness that's enjoying ice cream is not separate from the greater consciousness. May that ice cream give you joy. May your joy be transferred to your children and animals. May the joy of your children become the root of their future, a future where we have joyful people. So every action is interconnected in the dharmic field of affairs. And if this is just too much for you, put up with it. For the sake of Dharma. You'll love the next one. And we have a living curriculum from the Bhagavad Gita on a daily basis or a regular basis when we take care of the environment, and I have slides on environment. We are offering this is the cosmic forces, the greater forces. Then that is environmental dharma. When we are offerings to the wisdom bearers, to the knowledge bearers, to the lineages, to the teachers. For example, when you donate to the Theosophical Society right here, that is a kind of a Brahma Yajna. Moving on. Then we have Pitra Yajna. It is an offering to our ancestors and to our living family. When you take care of animals and birds who don't have a voice, that is called Bhuta Yajna. There is a Manusha Yajna, or when you take care of human beings you don't know. When you take care of human beings you don't know, when you help strangers, when you donate to a cause in the Amazon forest, well, they need help and you've donated there, that is Manusha Yajna. So can we just review again? So there is Deva Yajna, when you get involved in environmental protection, and in the Hindu setting it would mean something different, but Deva here means cosmic forces. So whenever you support that, you plant a tree, you recycle, that is known as Deva Yajna. When you are supporting your teacher, your lineage, your educational platforms, institutions, societies, that is, whichever is promoting the higher reality of Brahman, that is known as Brahma Yajna. When you take care of your ancestors, your grandparents, your parents, when you're not wasting time, you're doing Dharma, you're offering Yajna. Similarly, when you're taking care of animals, birds, you're putting out seeds for them to eat or water to drink in the hot summer, that is Bhuta Yajna. Manusha Yajna for the human beings. So now imagine a life where you don't just do these things mechanically, but you realize that, wow, this is my way to give back. This is my way to be an instrument of that universal divine. This is my way to make an offering that is not necessarily giving my ego a stroke. It is my way of participating in the whole. This is already building us, carving into us a unity consciousness. Now moving forward. Similarly, we get to practice various dharmic teachings from the Bhagavad Gita, such as Kshama, Satyam, Akrodha, Vidya, Dhriti. And it just helps create a living emotional curriculum for us to grow into more resilient, light beings, truly. And I could teach on each of these, but I scoped my presentation more as a starter for you to understand that Bhagavad Gita is not just this esoteric text belonging to the Hindu religion, but it is actually a Vedic primer for being a dharmic being. But when dharma is forgotten, we have the rise of, the Sanskrit word is adharma, or the rise of non-righteousness. And that is why discernment is needed, and we are coming to this need. You know, the name of our presentation, of our conference is In a Fractured World. And probably we are in a fractured world because the Sanskrit word dharma may not be known, but the dharma imperative, the dharma whisper deep within has been forgotten. And there are fewer and fewer of us who are bothering to learn more or sit at the feet of great traditions and great teachers to remember what we souls cannot afford to forget. So I want to tell you that there is a field of natural medicine called Ayurveda, which is connected to the Vedic tradition. It is a very important science. Do some of you know about it? Can I see hands? Wonderful, quite a bit. So I'm going to share with you some slides from Ayurveda texts, Charak Samhita, which talk about the environmental disasters that we are facing today. We are all aware of it, unfortunately, and the loss of dharma, adharma. And also, so it's kind of like a caution, and we're going to look at that. So this is an actual quote from the Charak Samhita from a section called Vimanasthanam. If dharma is lost over time, The seasons will get disrupted, rivers will become violent and change course. Meteoroids will appear frequently, earthquakes will shake the terrain, and in this natural and human-created mayhem, diseases will thrive and multiply and cause mass-scale destruction of all living beings. This was from 1st century. This is a text from 1st century. Moving on. This is another direct quote from this text, Charak Samhita. Unrighteousness or adharma is also the cause of the destruction of the community by weapons. Those who experience increased greed, hatred, anger, attachment, and conceit, disregarding the weak, attack each other or are attacked, leading to the loss of themselves and their people. So, I don't want to create a scary situation here, but I presented on environmental dharma at a university in California that called forth the best environmental minds, environment issue-related minds and scientists to the podium, and then they invited me in my robes to talk about it. And I spoke to them about Charak Samhita. I took a copy of it, and that was like a longer session, 2-hour session. And now 6 different minds in America are working with me to talk about Ayurveda's warnings and what is happening now. And the reason is that whatever is happening in our minds, how much dharmic or adharmic it is, the humans have a responsibility more than animals, because we are not only conscious, all beings are conscious, we are self-conscious. And we are conscious of the whole. And we have a responsibility, and the nature of our mind and the gunas or the qualities of the mind, that determines the quality of the whole. And so we are literally thinking our way, acting our way to our own destruction. And so in Sanskrit, it's a long word, and you must clap after I've said it. Jana pada dvansa, clap. It means mass-scale destruction happening of the universe that we know, the known universe, because of loss of dharma. Because we humans, you know all of it. Chemicals, weapons, destructions, hatred, prejudice, and whatnot. So the point I want to say is there are righteous battles, there are non-righteous ones. So I'm not going into the politics of it. What I'm trying to tell you is that there is a battle inside each one of us. And we have to be really clear about the dharmic part. And wait, I'm not going to stop here and leave you with some nightmares as a gift. I'm going to take you forward. This question was asked many thousands of years ago, and they didn't just predict a crisis. They do, they do guide us. And so I go through my life, and I'm speaking as just another individual on earth. I go through my life planting seeds. I go through my life recycling. I go through my life really protecting the quality of dharma in my mind, because I know that I am contributing. One unit is contributing towards peace, towards unity. Now this my guru had told me. Once when things are not going okay politically in India, as I was growing up, I asked my grandfather, why do we bother meditating on peace? Why do we bother? What is you and I going to achieve when all this is happening? My grandfather said, imagine if the whole earth was steeped in darkness. There were no lights, nothing at night. Half of earth was steeped in darkness. And so you can say the earth is in darkness. But if you and I lit one lamp light now, one, that darkness cannot say, I rule. We fractured the darkness with that one lamp. And imagine if more and more lamps were conscious of Dharma, then that would become our answer. And what I'm trying to explain to you, and I don't have enough time, is that what you think and how you act is not invisible. It is not invisible to a living, intelligent, cosmic universe. So our efforts matter, our conferences matter, our discussions matter, The books we read matter, and the actions, the heart that we have towards the others, the so-called othering, it matters. And moving on, it's more about inner alignment. So many people may ask me, well, what does Dharma say about the current political situation? That's not the point. The point here right now is our inner alignment. And that is really important. And so, in conclusion, I would like to bring up slides like this one from the Bhagavad Gita again. Sarvabhutastamatmanam sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. The yogi whose self is united with the divine sees the same self dwelling in all beings and all beings dwelling in the self. Such a one sees the same non-dual self everywhere. So it's not like you physically see the same self, but through your inner knowingness, you see it. So the more the Dharma becomes our imperative, the more we gather to understand about Dharma, gradually our eyes that see division, that see separation, our mind that's busy with othering, stops that. And when it turns inward and encounters that divine that we thought was somewhere here or there within us, at that point a paradigm shift occurs and we begin seeing the same divine everywhere. Yastu sarvani bhutanyatmanye vanupashyati sarvbhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. Vijugupsate. This is from the Upanishad. One who truly sees all beings in the self and the self in all beings feels no hatred, no repulsion, and no urge to turn away. Now this is a very advanced Dharma teaching, all love, all peace. And there was Krishna telling Arjuna to go to a battle, right? Do you see these two things? Because if we are into all love and all peace, and that's a Dharma prescription, then it's simple, right? But our life is not that simple. Sometimes we have to fight some battles. Sometimes we have to take up arms. I'm not saying we have to. I'm just saying take up arms in our relationships also. We have to speak up. We have to do the difficult thing. We have to walk out. We have to draw a boundary. Whether it is at a personal level, a national level, a community level, we don't know where we are heading. But I can say this much, that if we head blindly, as in metaphoric blindness, then we are in a trouble. But if we are aligned within, if you remember those verses where Krishna talked about inner preparedness, adambitvam, amanitvam, that verse from 13, chapter 13, verse 7, that verse, for example, we have to be inwardly prepared. We have to know and be in two planes of existence at the same time. We have to understand that there is a cosmic unity while I'm acting in a certain way, in a specific way. And we are coming to the close. So I wanted to quote this verse for you, again from the Upanishads, more later Upanishad. Ayam bandhur ayam neti gadana lagu chetasam udar charita namatu vasudhaiva kutumbakam. The narrow-minded divide the world into us and them, but the wise walk the path of Dharma that sees all beings as one family. I'd like to end with a universal blessing. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani paschantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Thank you so much.